Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Maseches ARACHIN Daf Chaf. We begin at the Mishnah, which is around 15, 16 lines from the top. Now we're going to pair up ARACHIN to Nedarim. So the Erech track entails a fellow pledging the fixed flat rate prescribed by the Torah, depending on the fellow's, the subject of your Erech's, his age, his gender, right? Whereas Nedarim relates to actual value. How much a person is valued at the slave market. Now, in comparing these two tracks, we'll find some elements of difference, some stringencies that apply to Erech unfound by Nedarim and vice versa. So the Erech is the fixed rate track, and the Neder is the actual value-based track. Says the Mishnah, Chaymer be'erchen mi b'Nedarim. So the following is a chumrah found by Erech over Neder. Ketzah, for example. Ha'omer erki olai umeis. A fellow pledges his own Erech. I'm going to pay my own Erech to the Beis HaMikdash. Umeis, and he passed away prior to carrying out that pledge, to paying it. It carries over to the kids. Yitnu HaYarshim, they have to pay it out, because, as Rashi explains, first Rashi in the Mishnah, about 7-8 lines from the top, Erki Alai is a davar kotzavu, it's a fixed rate, hence, it carries over to the Yarshim. There's no need for appraisal, there's no need to make an umdana, which you can't do once he passes on. Hilgach Yitnu HaYarshim, that's why the kids are obligated. But Dami Alai, I'm pledging my value, that has to be appraised. You need an assessment to establish that rate. And therefore, if he passes on prior to that procedure, the kids don't have to pay. There's no value for a person who passed away. So until it's established through an appraisal procedure, there is no amount to speak of. And therefore, they're part. Here's another difference between Erech and Neder. If he pledges the Erech of just his hand, just his foot, it doesn't exist. It doesn't work, because Erech relates to the person in his entirety, relates to his life, to his spirit, not to his hand and foot. As opposed to by a Neder, right? We discussed yesterday, you can do that. You can pledge the value of the hand and the foot on its own. But the Mishnah continues. Suppose he says Erech Roishi v'Erech Kvedi Alai, the Erech, the fixed rate relating to my head or to my liver. These are vital organs which represent the totality of a person's life. So in this case, even by Erech, it's going to trigger a full rate payment. Erech Roishi v'Erech Kvedi Alai, and Erech Kuli has to give his full rate, Zaklal, as per the rule. Davar shanashama tluyi boy, an organ, an aver, a limb, on which his life depends on. In this case, if he pledges the erech of that particular element, it triggers a full payment. What about chatzi erki olai? I'm pledging half my erech. Go ahead. Chatzi erka, he pays half his erech. But if his erech chatzi olai, just a slight switch in wording, the erech of half of my body, there's no half a body. Because once again, he's running into vital organs. So this is a full commitment. The same thing with the Neder track. In this case, they're the same. Chatzi Dmei Alai, Chatzi Dama. If he promises half his value, okay, that's what he pays. Dmei Chatzi Alai, I'm going to pay the value of half myself. In this case, he pays the full value, because Zakla, as per that rule, the davar shanashtamat luyaboy noisin meikul. Haimer erka shel ploni alai. Reuben pledges the erech of Shimon. Meisa noider neither. Suppose Reuben and Shimon both die. Yitnu HaYarshim. In this case, the kids have to pay, because you don't need an appraisal procedure for erech. It's predetermined by the Torah. So once he utters that pledge, he's chayiv, and it carries on to the kids. But damav shel plani alai umeis noider. Suppose he does the dummy, the monetary value pledge. Damav shel plani alai, pledging his actual value. And then somebody passes away. So it depends who. If Reuven, the pledger, passes away, so Shimon, the subject of his pledge, is still around. You can appraise him and bill the kids. Yitno Yosh, and the kids pay it. But Meis and this is a chiddush, even though the appraisal took place after Reuven's passing, it's just to reveal to us what Reuven obligated himself. Right? So he obligated the value. How much is the value? What's the number? Now we decide. Now we figure it out. But Meis HaNidar, but if Shimon, who's the subject of the neder, passes away, too late. Lo Yitnu Yosh, and the kids, Reuven's kids, do not have to pay it out. Yeah, the kids, or if Reuven is around as well. The Gemara is just using symmetrical depictions, but really, it's not just a Yarshin issue. If the subject matter of your neder is not here, is no longer around for assessment, so there's no chiyuv to speak of. There's no value to it. So lo yitno Yarshim, there's no payout. She'ein damal mason, there's no value for a mace, so you can't make an appraisal, you can't make an assessment. In which case, there is no payment to be made. Tanarabba. So the Mishnah at the outset presented a chumrah by erech over neder regarding a person who pledged an erech. So even though he died, the kids have to pick it up. But if he says, I'm giving my value, and then he dies before assessment, there's no chayif. Now comes a brisa, which presents an element of chumrah by neder over erech. Here comes a chumrah specific to neder over erech. In contrast to a neder, it doesn't have to be specific to a person. You can pledge the value of a behema, chaya, oif, a car, a tank, right? As opposed to erech, which is specific to a person. In contrast to erech, where there's a sliding scale based on your personal ability to pay, neder is an absolute chiyuv without any fluctuation. As opposed to erech, which has a sliding scale system, which is specific to human beings. Then we have the chumrah that we discussed that pertains to erech and not found by nedarim. Ketzad, for example, Amar Erki Olai, a person pledges his own personal erech, umeis, and he passes on, Yitnu Yarshim, it's an established rate by the Torah, the kids have to pick it up. But if he says, Domai Olai, I'm pledging to pay my own value as per market value, that requires assessment. Until that happens, there's no numbers to speak of. There's no chiyuv to speak of. So dama elayo mace, lo yitun yorshin. Kids don't have to pay that. Shein dama mace. There's no valuation for a mace. So the chiyuv has never been established. And the brisa continues. Omar erki elayo mace. We had this in the Mishnah as well, right? So more now we'll analyze the halacha that we just had in the brisa and as well as the Mishnah. Amar should just said that if he pledges his own erech and he passes on, the kids have to pick it up. Why? So true, the assets are here, father left over, but it's not a formalized, documented loan or obligation. Perhaps we can infer from here that even a milah peh, person borrows and has a verbal obligation, even if it's not yet documented, the kids have to pick up the father's obligations. Really, that's a big chidush. It's a whole discussion. Many places in the Gemara, are you going to infer that halacha from here? Why else would the kids have to pick up the father's tab for an erech pledge, which is just a verbal commitment? Well, no, it's not simply a verbal commitment. Shani hach, here it's very different to muvak suv b'terhi. Who imposes this obligation on this person? It's the Torah. That's a stronger chiyuv. It's more than just a milva al peh. So that's the Gemara. Okay, Shema, you mean to say that milva ksuv b'Torah ksuv b'shar damya, that a Torah obligation is considered as though it's been formulated in a document, which is also held with a discussion in other places in Shas. So why else would the kids have to pick up the father's, tab? Well, Hachamai Skinner was speaking, and actually it was officially formalized in a bezdin, kshamad bedin. So what happened was the father pledged the erech, and it didn't end there. He wasn't paying, and the bezdin got a hold of him and issued a verdict to the extent that he has to pay it out. So that's not just a milva ksuv b'Torah. That's a formal, official obligation. It's like it's written in a shtar. Everybody knows of it. It's public knowledge. So that certainly carries over to the kids as well. It's as though it was formulated in a document. It's like a milva b'shtar, and the kids are chayiv. Well, says the okay. So that relates to the case of erech yolai. He pledged his erech, passed away. The kids pick it up. Why? Amad b'din. Let's move on to the parallel case in the Mishnah, the kavasa. So, likewise, in the next case, Gabi Dama Yolai, when he promised his value, not the erech, his market value. Mishnah says, passes on before an assessment was made, the kids have to, kids are exempt. Hold it, are we speaking that bezdin got involved? So, why shouldn't the kids pick up the tab? The Kavasah Gabi Dama Yolai, Amad B'din was speaking that he was taken into bezdin, they issued a verdict for him to pay. So why don't the kids have to pay it out? Says the Gemara, because there was no assessment. It's lacking the assessment procedure. So although the bezdin compelled him to pay, but there was no established amount, there was no chiv to speak of in terms of numbers. So therefore the kids don't have to pay it out yet. As opposed to erech yolai, which is a fixed rate, which doesn't need an assessment. It's not lacking any step in the way. So once the bezdin issued that verdict, it becomes formalized, and the kids have to pick it up. Erech yodai, yodi v'ragli olai. Okay, so a fellow applied the erech commitment to his hand or to his foot. There's no erech on a hand and a foot. Amrav gidol marav, but v'noisin domeo, although he's not giving the erech of that particular element in his body, but he has to pay out the actual value as per market value. What do you mean? V'alamar klum katoni. Mishnah says it doesn't obligate him at all. Yeah, according to Shitas Rabbanan, it was an improper pledge. There's no obligation. But according to Rabbi Meir, who we discussed a while ago, who says, a person doesn't want his words to go for naught. And, even though technically the erech term is not going to trigger any chiyuv, but he's willing to give the whatever works, as per value, if that works, right? And therefore, according to Rameir, he'll pay out the actual value. Well, says the Gemara, this is Rav speaking, and Rav already told us this point elsewhere. Rav himself had already taught us this point elsewhere, that this is Rameir's opinion regarding Erachin. Person pledges the erech of a car. There's no erech to a car. Erech is specific to humans. Right? Erech klezeh alai. So according to Reb Meir, if erech doesn't work, so let damim work. Nice and damim, he pays out the actual value. So it's been discussed elsewhere. Why repeat it again to the case of the erech yadi? Well, Ma'odeh perhaps there's room to mistakenly misunderstand the halacha, and perhaps not apply it to our case. Hence, Rab needed to stress that applies here too. What would you think? Ma'odeh perhaps there's room to think. Yeah, some. Who the Adam Yodea? It's only there by the Kli. That a person knows. He reads Chumash, he knows. Adam Yodea. A person knows that Erech is specific to a person, not to a Kli. The Adam Yodea she'ein Erech l'Kli. V'gam Rav L'Shem Dam. So when he said Erech, he meant, value, actual value. But here, Erech Yadi, maybe he's mistakenly thinking, he's believing that you can have an erech of a yad. He's not so well versed in the intricacies of the hilchas erech of meseches, right? The Sabra is thinking just like when you apply the erech to the head or to the liver, which are vital organs, it triggers a full obligation, a full erech. Perhaps the same with the hand and the foot. We never meant to pledge more than that. Never meant to pledge value. He was on the erech track, thinking it's going to work. About damai loika, I never meant the demay, the actual value. Kamashmon comes around and says no. That whenever a person expresses a commitment, such as an erech on something which doesn't work, so he doesn't mind anything. Look, whatever works. If it doesn't work as the erech, okay, I'm willing to pay as the damim. A person values his words, doesn't want to go for naught. So apply it in whichever way will be effective. Erech roishi, erech kvedi kuloi. So if he pledges the erech of a vital organ, it triggers a full payment. My time of wine nefashos come rachman. The pasuk says be'erech nefashos. If it relates to vital nefashos elements, then it triggers a full erech. Zaklal, as per the rule. And the Mishnah is sort of repeating itself. Davar shenshama tluy boy, which requires an explanation. Why would the Mishnah have to repeat itself? To cover something which is a novelty, a chiddush. So even though it already covered the head and the liver, which brings out the point. Lasuyu, here we're coming to add merakubel amalo. So if he related to erech of his foot, of his leg, beyond above the knee, which if removed would constitute a treif, would make him critically injured. So that's also considered davar shenshama tluy bo. If he makes an erech on that, the whole erech kicks in. Chatzi erech alaynesin. Chatzi erech. If he promises half his erech, so he pays half the erech. But if he says chatzi, he says erech chatzi alay, I'm giving the erech of half myself. Oh, you're running into vital organs. In this case, it's full rate. Tanur Rabbanan, we have a brisa. Well, there's a machlekes on this matter. So the brisa brings two shittas. The first opinion reflects the shitta of our Mishnah. That switch in wording will make a world of a difference. He pledges half his erech, okay, so he pays half the erech. Rabbi Yisrael b'da'omer, no, loike, he gets hit, and he pays full rate. Loike, why is he getting hit? Amai, what's wrong? What did he do wrong? Amra Papa loike berach shalom just means to say he gets hit with the full bill. Full rate, no half discounts. My time of why. If you just said chatzi erki, he's just committing half his erech. It's different than saying erech chatzi, which triggers a full rate because he's running to vital organs. But here he's pledging only half the erech. Whatever the full erech is $100, I'm giving 50. So why, according to this opinion, is he billed at full rate? It's a gzeira, because the two versions are so similar, almost identical. Very hard to differentiate for an unlearned person. So the gzeira is a concern that it's just going to generate confusion. My time midrabanan we say gzeira. Chatzi erki, we bill on full rate for saying chatzi erki, on account of erech chatzi, where if you would say it that way, erech chatzi, it's vital, organ related, which triggers a full rate. So we don't differentiate between these two very close sounding, almost identical expressions. Chatzi demei alai, again the same idea with damim on the damim track, half my value, half. Mechatzi alai, the value of half myself, full rate. Why? Because my time in neder be'ercha nefashos ksiv. The pasuk says neder, which is the neder be'ercha next to be'ercha nefashos. So you run into nefesh issues, vital organ issues, triggers a full rate. Mishnah repeats itself again on this matter. To cover even the case where he pledged the actual value of his upper leg, which is considered vital and triggers a full rate payment. Tanur Rabbanan. So here's another example of a fellow who pledged the erech of something which is not erechable, like a utensil. Tanur Rabbanan, hamarach chatzi erech kli. So he's pledging half the erech of a kli. Chatzi erech kli, the half erech of a kli. Taisa says a little different gersi. He says it's erech chatzi kli, the erech of half a kli, which is not a regular thing to do. People don't donate half. Okay. In any case, once again, he's pairing up unpairable concepts. He's applying an erech concept to a kli, which is not a person. So once again, we have the same machlekes. Rameo Imer, Noisin Damov. Okay, erech doesn't work, but damim does. So you're obligated to pay out the actual market value of the kli. V'chacham Imer, no, Leimer Klum, it doesn't work because there's no erech for a kli. If it doesn't work as per, as you said, so you're not chayav. So there's a story about Rava, Samagaris Rabba, Chalash. He was weak, he was unwell, and he had visitors who came to do Achnasa Bigru Chaylim. Who came into him? Abaye, Rabbanon. They were sitting and saying over halachas. So they discussed this very brisa, where he pledged the erech of half the erech of the kli. So may we understand, because Savar, he holds Inodam Moitzi Torah. A person will not express his words for nothing, and therefore, Loishna Kula, whether he pledged the erech of the full kli, Loishna Chetzi, or half, we sort of convert it into damim. If the erech doesn't work, okay, so you pay the damim. Other Rabban Makasabi, but the Rabban, what are they? Why are they focusing on a half a kli? If they hold that a person, sometimes can, speak fervorously, and if it doesn't work, he's potter. So then the same exact halacha would apply when he promises the erech of the full kli. Erech doesn't work, so he's exempt. And if a person does not speak frivolously, so then we assume that he wants his word to have some effect. So even in this case, where he pledged to half the erech, he should be obligated in half the value. So Amri Lahu Abaye v'Rava, or Amalu Rabba. Okay, somebody responded like this. I'll explain to you what's going on. The truth is that the Rabbanon, who are arguing with Rameir in this brisa, really are in concept on Rameir's track. That a person would not speak in vain. He wants it to take effect somehow. He wants to pay out something. But that's, in their opinion, that's not going to apply in this case. So when he pledges the erech of a full kli, that's a regular mode of pledging. If it doesn't work on the erech track, okay, send him a bill for the damim track. But in this case, he pledges the erech of a half a kli. That's an unusual, not a very conventional way of donating the erech of a half a kli. Because as Tosfos explains, a half a kli doesn't have value, right? You can't use a half a kli, right? Reb Shimon, in which case they hold like Reb Shimon, who told us back in Mesechas Menachos, if you don't pledge properly, it's not a pledge. It's just, frivolity, right? The Gemara explains. On the one hand, regarding the general question of the value of his words, on that they go like Rabbi Meir. Damar who holds ein adam moitzi dvar v'atel. A person would not waste his words, and if it can be somehow implemented, he's happy to go with it. But not in this case. In this case, I'll like Rabbi Shimon. Damar who says that when it's not a conventional mode of donation, it doesn't work. It's just playing around. Damar who says shlo yisnadav kedercha misnadim. He's speaking a case where Rashi brings you about 6 lines from the bottom. And he pledges a mincha made from barley. It's not non-existent. It's not a regular. So there's no obligation. He's just playing games. And therefore, over here, kulei urchelis naduvi. Yeah, to pledge the value of a full kli. That's derech. The derech is a proper way. It's an accepted mode of pledge and donation. But palge half the kli. Lav urchelis naduvi. Nobody pledges a value of half a kli. So in this case, since he donated, pledged only the erech of a half a kli, but completely potter. It's completely potter. So on the one hand, they would be okay converting it from an erech to a damim. Ein adam moitzi dvar v'atal. But that's only when we assume that he's serious, as opposed to this case where we just don't take him seriously. Okay, so let's just recap. Erech pertains to people. Neder pertains to any item. Right? One more difference is that erech has a Hesegiyat system, a sliding scale system, depending on your ability to pay, whereas by Nadarim, it is what it is. There's no reduction for, financial difficulties. On the flip side, a person pledges an erech, and the person who he pledged about passed away before he got a chance to, he's chayav to pay it out, because an erech is a fixed rate. You don't have to make the assessment and the appraisal, as opposed to if he pledged the damim of a certain person, then the person's not here, passed away before the assessment procedure was implemented, then there's no chiyuv, because there was no established chiyuv, there's no established number for that pledge. Okay, continues the Gemara. So Reuven pledges the erech of Shimon, and then Reuven passes away. The kids pick it up. Now, mind you, what are we talking? What happened here? Shaman B'din. Apparently, Reuven was taken to task by the Bezdin, right? That we said before, in the beginning of the Mishnah as well. So that formal, verdict, that formal chiyuv, carries on to the kids. So then, hainu hach. So this is an exact replica of the previous case in the Mishnah there. Why repeat the same case over and over again? Is there any special lesson in this last part of the Mishnah? Yes. Sefer Tzrichle, there's a point in discussing it again in this Sefer, on account of the next part of this halach. Dam of Shapleni Elayom Es HaNoidit No Yosh. Mishnah says, Reuven pledges the value, the damim of Shimon, and then Reuven dies. Shimon's around, ready for assessment, but Reuven's not here. The kids have to pick it up. Return to peace. And that's a chiddush. Most of the time there's room to think, look, when did he pass away? He passed away before the assessment was done. Before the Bezdin really established the exact amount for this pledge. So, although Shimon, the subject of the pledge, is around and ready for assessment, but Reuben is not here anymore to sort of receive, to commit himself to that assessed value. So perhaps he's not chayiv. The kids are not chayiv. The chiv wasn't yet generated, wasn't yet established, wasn't yet determined. There's room to think, even though since they haven't yet appraised Shimon, the assets of Reuven are not bound to that obligation yet, not bound to that pledge, which was not yet determined. Kamashman, the point is, yes, given that, but then since Reuven had already stood in court and he was obligated to pay, his assets are bound to that pledge, so you have to pay. How much? Okay, we'll verify that later. So the appraisal process applied to Shimon, who's around and ready for it, is merely a glui musa ba'amu. It's just a revelation. It's just a confirmation in terms of how much you have to pay. But the actual chiyuv was already activated, in which case, even if you passed away before appraisal, the kids will have to pick up that bill. So we have this interesting contrast. All the different kind of cases where, so let's say Reuven pledged the value of Shimon, damim of Shimon, and Shimon passed away. Reuben's around to pay, but Shimon's not here to be appraised. So we can't really establish any chiyuv. There's no way to determine a chiyuv. Ain't that amazing? And the same would apply if he pledged his own value and he passed away before assessment. You need to have an umdana to activate the chiyuv. However, if it was Reuven pledging the value of Shimon and Reuven passes away before the umdana, and Shimon is around for the umdana, in this case the kids will pick it up, despite the fact that we haven't yet put a dollar amount onto his obligation, and the chasam already mishubit. The umdana is just a formal, confirmation in terms of the exact amount, but the chiyuv was already chal. And again, the Gemara explained that we're speaking ba'amad b'din, that the person was already obligated by the bezdin. Otherwise, there's a whole discussion of whether it would carry on to the kids. That's it's a separate issue. Continues the Mishnah. So we know that in general there are two types of donations to the Beis Hamikdash. There is a neder and there is an adava. Neder is a personal vow. I am going to deliver X amount to the base. I'm going to deliver this animal. Then we have the item object based pledge. This animal, this item. And the difference is very simple. Is he responsible for the safety of the item? So if it's a lie upon me, I am obligated personal vows, so he has to ensure delivery. Until it happens, he hasn't really fulfilled his pledge. But if it's item, object, material based, then okay, the kedusha is there. If it makes it fine, but otherwise I'm not obligated. Says the Mishnah, Shor Zeh Oila. He gets up and says, this shor, this ox, is now committed for a karban oila. For the mizbeach. Zeh, this. Right? Material based. Not personal based, material based. So sure, he has to be matriach, make the effort to bring it to Beis HaMikdash, but ultimately if something goes wrong, he's not responsible to compensate for that loss. Ubais is a carbon. Another version of this item-based pledge is bais is a carbon. This house is now carbon. Here means not as a carbon mizbeach, it means for bedek habayis. I'm donating it to the treasury. Carbon is lashon of hakrava, I'm bringing close to Hashem, right? So the first is kedushas haguf, to actually kaddish as a carbon meant for processing it on the mizbeach, and the second one is kedushas dam, it's monetarily kaddish, but both have this commonality in the sense that they're both item based, and therefore the mission continues. If something goes wrong, he doesn't have to pay it up. If the animal died or the house collapsed, he doesn't have to compensate for that loss. But shor zeh oila. But if it's a personal vow, I am pledging the shors and oila. Ubai is a lie carbon. I am pledging the house. In this case, he's fully responsible for the safety of these items. Mesa ashur, and if something goes wrong, it dies, it collapses, he has to pay up for it. Amar chi barav, hold it. In the second example of the alai, it's not so simple. Because really, a lie can just mean, look, I'm going to look after it. I'm not responsible for it, but I, as the owner, as a pledger, have to make sure it's brought to the Beis HaMikdash. It's part of my chiyuv, part of my mitzvah. But ultimately, if something goes wrong, I'm not responsible to substitute for it, unless he adds one word. When do we say he's obligated? So not only shor zeh oila, he added the word demei, the value is upon me as an oila, meaning sure, the animal is kaddish, but furthermore, I'm going to look after it. If something goes wrong, I have to pay for it and replace it. So in this case, he added the word demei, the value as well. I'm committed to the value. If something goes wrong, I have to replace it. But if he leaves out the word demei, a subtle difference, but that's a world of a difference here. If he just suffices with shor zeh oila, he's not responsible for the safety of the Kivan the Amar Zeh, because since he says Zeh Umeis and he dies, he's not responsible for it. Why? Because although he said the word alai just means la via kamar. I have to deliver it, I have to bring it. Rashi says L'troya chachi iskar. I have to make sure that it's brought as a carbon. It's part of my obligation, but I'm not responsible. Okay, so according to Rav, we add one more word. So we have two parts to the Mishnah. If it's simply item based, shor zeh by zeh, he's not obligated, he's not responsible for it. But if he adds the word alai with demei, so the item is kaddish, but furthermore, he is responsible to replace it if something goes wrong. Meisvei comes a kash from a brisa, which seems to say otherwise. That even without the word demei, he is responsible. Meisvei shor zeh oila. Okay, so that's the first example in the Mishnah, shor zeh, item based. So then Ashar Hegdish, of course the animal is Kaddish, and Malam Bay person misuses it, he committed Mila, but the owner who donated it is not responsible for it. Mesa Nikna, if it dies or gets stolen, he's not responsible. But shor zeh alai oila, Ashar Hegdish, Malam Bay. So shor is Kaddish and there's Mila. And in this case, there's an added element of responsibility. Mesa Nikna Yusay. That's a straight kasha on Rav, who says there is no responsibility by just saying alai. Well, says the Gemara, why is this a stronger kasha than the Mishnah, which we had modified? Why is it stronger than the Mishnah? We already modified the Mishnah as well. So here too, Chanami as well, the comment demei, we're speaking that he said demei. Demei shor zeh alai. This is extending his obligation to the value, which means to compensate, to replace, if anything goes wrong. Hold it, says the Gemara open the safe to come at demei, but if you look on to the next part of the brisa, there it mentions Demei. Another third case of Demei. Apparently, that's the contrast between the third case of the brisa and the second case. Reisha, the earlier case in the brisa, case number 2 that we just discussed, is without Demei. Reisha lo yamar kamar Demei. Because the brisa specifically cites Demei in the next case, obviously this case is without Demei. What's the next case in the brisa? Tani safe. Demei shor. They add the ger says ze. Demei shor ze alai oila. Okay, so that's exactly Rav's formula. Demei shor ze alai oila. So on the one hand, ashar chulin. Rashi explains in this case the actual animal is not kaddish because he specified demei, which means to say the money I'll receive in exchange as payment for this shor will be used for a carbon. So he's only being magdish the money as it will come later. Fine. There's no me'ilah on this animal. And if the animal goes missing, dies or stolen, he's not responsible because, as Rashi says, he only committed himself to the money. Whatever money I will receive in payment for the animal, but if it wasn't sold, there's no money. Let's say he did sell and he got paid for it. That money is now under his achrayus. He's responsible for the whereabouts of that money. Okay? And that's because he said the word Demei. Apparently in the previous case, it was without Demei. And still the brisa says that is Chai B'Achrayas. Unlike Rav, who says that without adding Demei, you're not Chai B'Achrayas. Says no, Reisha v'Seif the Kamar Demei. In both cases, case 2 and case 3 of the brisa, both involve the word Demei. In line with Rav. The Chai B'Achrayas only kicks in when you say Demei. Otherwise, maybe it just means I'm going to bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, but not responsible for it. Demei makes you responsible. So if both are speaking Demei, what is the difference between case 2 and case 3 of the brisa? In case 2, is Chai B'Achrayas on the animal. Case 3 is not Chai B'Achrayas until the money shows up. What's the difference? They both seem to be identical. Okay. Reisha de Amar Yigdash Ashar L'Dama. The Reisha is speaking, meaning the second case of the brisa is speaking, where he said as follows: Yigdash Hashar L'Dama. The ox, the animal, will be kaddish for its value. Meaning, it's not inherently kaddish. I'm not going to bring it as a carbon per se. I'm going to get it redeemed, switch for money, which will be used for the hekdesh. So in this case, when he added the word alai, it certainly means I am responsible. You see, when he has something in front of him, he says, this will be kaddish, and it's upon me. So here you could say, look, upon me to make sure that it happens, but not responsible for it. But here there's no money yet to speak of. So he didn't make it an item-based kedusha. He says, it's the opposite. This animal is not yet kaddish on the highest level. It's just a preparation. It's just monetarily kaddish, awaiting redemption, awaiting sale, awaiting procurement of its value, of its money, exchange. So when he says a lie, he meant really a lie. I'm achraya, I'm responsible. So in this case, something goes wrong, he has to pay up. So that's the case in the Reisha. The Seifa, but in case 3, there was a subtle difference. Very similar, but subtly different. The Kamar, he said, the Kshavayu Dam of Yikachu. He says like this: there's nothing here kaddish yet. Not the animal. There's no money for sure, it's just an animal. Likish Yavayu Dam of Yikachu. When the money arrives, when I get it sold in exchange for money, that money will be kaddish. But at this point, it's still premature. There's no kedusha yet. So, if it dies, etc., he's not something responsible for. It's not kaddish yet. Okay? So, yeah, we're going with Rav. Of course, you have to add the word Dmei for it to be considered, to add the element of achrayis. Because just saying a lie, it means I'm going to look after, make sure it's delivered to the Beis HaMikdash. I'm not responsible for it. By adding the word Dmei, what he's saying is, look, I'm responsible for the value. So that's in general. And in the Brisa, we have a distinction between 2 similar cases, both with the Dmei element, but there's a difference between where he pledges the value of the actual shar, the shar for its value, which means that it's already kaddish now to a certain extent, as opposed to the sefer where he's pledging the money when it will show up. You can't ask the Gemara, but how could you pledge on future money which is not yet here? It's not yet in existence. A person cannot be magdish something which has yet to happen. Could only be magdish something which is here in existence. Who says he could? A person can pledge, can commit himself to something down the road. Adam magdish davar, a person can be magdish something which hasn't yet arrived. We find Rameir, Rashi brings in the case of Kiddushin, a person can approach an Isha and say, look, I know I'm still pre-conversion, I want to be Mekadosh you, and have the Kiddushin be implemented after I convert. So even though it's not yet in existence, it's still early in the game, but you can start the process now and have it implemented later. Here as well, you can be Magdish the value which will arrive later. There's a slightly different version of this discussion, depending who said and who answered. Papa asked Abaye, some say Rami Bar Chamla, Rav Chizda Kaman Rameir. This concept of Magdish on a future arrival is like Rameir, the Amr who says, Ada Magdish Davar, a person can commit himself to something which is not yet here. Davar Shlei B'La'ilam. Amalei says, of course. Who else? Well, Kaman. Who else is going on? Okay, so in a nutshell, we have a Mishnah with two general, categories, types of Hegdish: item-based, personal-based. Sure, Ze'olah is item-based. He's not responsible if something goes wrong. But if it's a lie, he's responsible. Rav adds, you have to add the word a lie, the value, in order to make yourself responsible. And we have a third case as well, where it's going on in the future, in line with Rameir. Okay, we'll pick it up tomorrow with Hashem. All the best to you and Hatzlach.